Hi, welcome everyone. I hope you're keeping well. Thank you for joining us today, and we're very excited to welcome you to the very last webinar in our series, Tools for Peace. Today's webinar is titled Shinrin Yoku, How Forest Bathing Can Help Us to Get New Energy in Our Everyday Life. I am Eve. I am part of the team at the International Secretariat of Service Civil International, and I am one of the moderators today. My colleague Claudia is also here to support the technical parts and the Q&A later on. Before we get started, just a few technical announcements. So this webinar is being recorded and will be shared on our YouTube channel, but also it will be shared by email tomorrow. Your camera and your mic are off, so we can't see you or hear you in the meanwhile. The webinar lasts 90 minutes. Loretta, our guest today, will present for 60 minutes. Then we will have 30 minutes for Q&A. In the meantime, you can send your questions anytime in the Q&A box. They will be answered later during the Q&A part. Chat will be open for you to interact, but if you have any question for the Q&A, please ask it in the Q&A box. It will make it easier for us to answer question at the end. And please note that no certificate will be delivered at the end of this webinar. Now I'll just take a couple of minutes to introduce who is behind the organization of this webinar today. So we are the International Secretariat of Service Civil International, or SCI, which is a volunteer organization dedicated to promoting a culture of peace by organizing international voluntary projects for people of all ages and backgrounds. SCI is open to all, and it has no political or religious affiliation. We envision a world of peace, social justice, and sustainable development, where all people live together with mutual respect and without recourse to any form of violence to solve conflict. Our volunteering projects include work camps, long-term volunteering projects, training courses, and local events. So today's webinar is part of one of our projects called Peace in Diversity, and is co-founded by the Erasmus Plus project of the European Union. Peace in Diversity aims to build the capacity of volunteers, activists, and youth workers on peace and nonviolence that will support their work with diverse groups, teams, and communities. The project includes 3 main activities: 2 in-person training courses that already took place, and today we're welcoming you to the Tool for Peace webinar series. It is a series of online events aimed at equipping young people with practical skills for practicing peace, conflict transformation, and nonviolent communication in diverse communities. We are motivated to share some of the learning from our project with a wider audience, and that's why we are here today with you. The webinars are meant to be practical, where would you have the opportunity to immediately implement the learning outcomes in your private and or professional life. So here today, we meet with Loretta, who is going to talk about the Shinrin Yoku, how forest bathing can help us to get new energy in our everyday life. And over to you, Loretta, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Eve, for the lovely introduction. As Eve said, my name is Loretta, and I'm so happy to be here as the last part in this series of the webinars. And I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can start. There you go. I hope you can all see it. Yes. So today the webinar is about Shinrin Yoku and how forest bathing can help us to get new energy in our everyday life. Before we start, a few words about me. I was born in 1986 in Bern, Switzerland. I studied social anthropology and English. And for 10 years now, I have been working for SCI Switzerland, mainly in communication, project coordination, facilitation of trainings and workshops, local projects. It was really funny. In 2021, I wanted to kind of get away from the computer, from the screen a little bit, because I do love my work at SCI, but what I didn't love so much is sitting in front of the computer. And I was actually just one night meeting with a friend, talking about what I could do apart from being in front of the computer, with a little group of people going to nature. And this friend, this dear friend, she told me that she read this article about Shinrin Yoku just a week ago, and that it's really interesting and really inspiring for her, and that I should check it out. And we both actually checked it out, and together we enrolled for this training to become a Shinrin Yoku health trainer at the Forest Bathing Academy in Switzerland in 2021. And the course lasted for 1 year. And after finishing or getting our degree, we both decided to do it together. So me and this friend, we launched the Shinrin Yoku Burn website. And since then, we are holding regular courses of Shinrin Yoku. So we go with groups into the forest. And in my personal life, I'm living with my 2 kids and my partner in Bern. And I love nature, also yoga. I love books. I love to cook and music. And I'm very interested in feminist and climate movements. So that's a little bit about me. I took this quote to have an introduction into this very nature-based experience we're going to have together. May your time in nature lead you to yourself. Aishi Koba. First, let's dive a little bit into the history of Shinrin Yoku. Shinrin Yoku comes from Japan, and in Japanese language, Shinrin means forest, Yoku means bath, and basically it's really diving into the atmosphere of the forest, so taking a bath in this forest atmosphere. The term was coined in 1982 by Tomohide Akiyama, who was the director of the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. It is a practice or process of relaxation where one spends time in a forest or natural atmosphere, diving in with many senses, such as vision, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, etc., to connect with nature. What is Shinrin Yoku exactly? So forest bathing or Shinrin Yoku are not really protected terms. So that means if you Google it, you can find a lot of varieties of offers, different definitions, walks and courses. But generally all Shinrin Yoku courses offer a guided walk in the forest as a way to relax in nature with mindfulness exercises. Shinrin Yoku walks usually happen in small groups. We usually do them with 6 to 12 people. Sometimes they are a bit larger or smaller, and the group is guided by a trainer. Shinrin Yoku walks usually take 2 to 3 hours, and they consist of a variety of exercises such as mindfulness, breath work, relaxation techniques, can also include land art, embodiment techniques, and usually they finish with a tea ceremony. But we're gonna hear much more about this later on. Why Japan? I quote Dr. King Lee here. It is no surprise that Shinrin Yoku developed in Japan. The Japanese are a forest civilization. Their culture, philosophy, and religion are carved out of the forests that blanket the country. You can see a little picture of Dr. King Lee here, and he's holding his first work, Shinrin Yoku, Forest Bathing, How Trees Can Help You Find Health and Happiness. It is still the groundbreaking work within this field of Shinrin Yoku. He was also conducting a lot of studies regarding Shinrin Yoku and the effects of forest bathing. In Japan, there's also a lot of Shinto and Buddhist practices that emphasize the spiritual and healing qualities of nature. Japanese culture has long celebrated the spiritual and aesthetic connections between humans and the natural world. And in Japanese culture, they believe that power has very restorative powers. Also in Japanese language, it's super interesting. There is the concept of ikigai and wabi-sabi. It is really full of single word concepts related to nature. And they don't really have an English translation. So I picked out a few to show you. One is komorebi. It's used to describe the light that we often see coming through the forests or the leaves of the trees. It's something we observe actually a lot when we go to nature or in the forest specifically. And I think it's so beautiful that there is this word for it to describe it. Kawakari, it's used to describe the glow of a river or stream in darkness or dusk and the way that moonlight reflects off the river. Then we have kogarashi. It's used to describe a cold, wintry, leaf-wilting wind that nudges the wilting leaves to fall from the trees in autumn. Yeah, that's a bit maybe tricky also for those of you who are not native English speakers. But still, it's just a way to show how in Japanese language it's played with these words in a very beautiful way. Also, kachu, fugetsu literally translate into flower, bird, wind, moon, and also how we can experience beauty, the beauty of nature, and learning to get to know each other better. Then we have another term coming from Japan. It's karoshi. Karoshi actually literally means overwork, death. That is the negative word connotation we see in Japanese culture. Japan has huge problems with stress-related illnesses, overworking, and yeah, even to the point of dying or like total exhaustion. So there's also this term, and forest bathing or Shinrin Yoku came into this as a response to the rapid urbanization and technological advancement. Also as a response to an increase in anxiety and stress-related illnesses. Slide, not really. Don't really keep going. Just see. Works now. No. Sorry, I'm going to quickly stop sharing. Coming back. Yeah, perfect. We're back on. So how do we reconnect with nature? Stress-related illness and increased exposure to urban environments and the associated stress led to a growing interest in finding ways to reconnect with nature. And this can be observed not only in Japan, but also in the Western world and all over the world. Forest medicine, this term also was big in the 1980s. The Japanese government actually launched a series of studies to investigate the health benefits of spending time in forests. These studies examined the physiological and psychological effects of being immersed in a forest environment. Researchers measured various indicators such as blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol levels, and immune system responses before and after participants engaged in forest activities. So how does it actually work? So the education I was doing in Switzerland at this Academy for Forest Bathing is actually led by Nadine Gaschlin. She has founded this academy, and she has also coined the new term Shinrin Yoku health training. So she was also a bit aware that there is no consistent definition of Shinrin Yoku out there. So she coined this new term to describe a new method of having a practical Shinrin Yoku training in the forest that can have the same kind of health benefits to everyone and that can be measured in the end. her courses need to follow the 5 phases. I'm gonna show you what they are later on in this webinar. And it's really important, like she always says, okay, you can only call this Shinrin Yoku health training if they include my 5 phases that I defined. Otherwise, it's also nice, it's also forest bathing, but it's not this health training that I want to offer. Shinrin Yoku health training, why we do it and how it affects us. Basically, it shows like the importance of spending time in nature and having a connection with nature as part of caring for our health. So that's kind of lying underneath this whole philosophy. Slowing down is a really important factor. Hectic stress and going slowly, slowing down is part of caring for our health. One other really important tool within Shinrin Yoku health training is to be amazed like a child. So we exit the expertise mind. That really means like we are often in our thinking brains, and if I say forest, you have terms in your heads and something that you read about it or that you did at uni. And in Shinrin Yoku, we really want to get out of this mind into a beginner's mind. So seeing things for the first time, it's a really nice comparison to think of children, little children, and how they see the world, how they for the first time see maybe a leaf, or they smell a flower, or they look at the sun. And it's really this kind of mindset we try to get participants into. So we want to practice mindfulness exercises in and with nature. So we are always in nature in those courses, but we are also working with nature. So nature becomes our office, so to speak. Being present is very important, and we are arriving in the here and now. So we try to get out of our thinking mind again into a very presence that we sometimes lack. Mindfulness, as I said, is one pillar of Shinrin Yoku. Here I want to present 2 really important philosophers from the Eastern philosophy. From Asia, there's Thich Nhat Hanh. He died, I think, 2 years ago or 1 year ago, so just recently, unfortunately. But he was a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, also a peace activist, author, poet, and teacher. And he's also called the father of mindfulness. Thich Nhat Hanh is really famous for basically like the whole slow walking movement, mindful walking, and slowing down in general. He did a lot of books. He wrote a lot of books about just walking slowly, having images in your head of flowers coming out of your feet while you walk. And it's a very beautiful writer. I can really recommend his work. And then in the Western philosophy, we have Jon Kabat-Zinn. He is focusing more on meditation, modern mindfulness, and an ongoing cultivation of mindfulness and presence. Yes, I think these 2 names, they come up often in our courses, and I think they're really good to also get into this whole mindfulness studies. Power of soft fascination. So in Shinrin Yoku, we work a lot with soft fascination. It means that usually we all kind of do tasks in our focused attention, meaning that we focus on very clear tasks while we try to ignore our phone, loud conversations, and a lot of distractions coming from the outside. This is very exhausting mentally, and we can feel very tired. Our attention often lacks, and we actually get less effective. But soft fascination is a powerful tool. We usually just let our gaze wander in the forest or in nature. We look at clouds that pass, the sun that sets, or trees that move with the wind. So it's really like getting into this zone of just observing nature in a very quiet, almost aimless aimlessness, yeah, without any aim. We just wander and we let our gaze wander. The great thing about soft fascination is that it's really possible anywhere in our daily lives. So you can look out even your window, you can look at natural landscapes such as parks, gardens, streams or rivers. It can also be just public parks in a city. Any green patch you can find, basically. It already has an effect if you let your gaze wander out of your window. So that's a really great way. Or also, if you don't have time to go to the forest or even a park, then it's nice to just look at something green you discover through the window, or even looking at nature photography can have an effect already. So you can even put photos in your office space or in your room at home and look at this. It already gives your mind a break from everything. Importance of self-care. Self-care is definitely a big pillar in Shinrin Yoku. I think it's really important to recognize the importance of self-care. It is essential, it's not selfish. And I think once you wrap your mind around that, it becomes easier to also take time to go to nature and to really take time for yourself to discover nature. Self-care is an important part of caring for our health and also the prevention of it. And self-worth is crucial for taking care of yourself. So I think once we establish this self-worth, that we are worthy of having these breaks and going to nature, it becomes really easy to practice it more and more in our daily lives. And this is me in the photograph at the River Are here in Bern and taking a break. We are part of Generation Indoors. I think that's really good to realize as a countermeasure that we need Shinrin Yoku or more nature, because in average people spend 90% indoors and in closed rooms, especially like office spaces. Numerous studies have shown that spending time outdoors is beneficial for us. So being in nature triggers positive emotions such as joy, feeling at ease, lightness, and feeling of freedom. So this is really, important to realize that even if you can go out for 10 minutes, go for a walk, or instead of taking the train home, walking a little part of it, it's really helpful. The Shinrin Yoku walks that we offer, they are a group experience. So we enter the forest as a group and we stay together at all times. This is really important because sometimes we find participants that want to wander off and they get very indulged in nature, but we always tell them to come back and to really act in this group setting. Participants are encouraged to switch off their phones during the Shinrin Yoku walks. So the night side effect is this digital detox they get. Every exercise is an invitation, not a must. So it's all about being willingly there and only doing the exercises that you want to. There is no force or pressure from us as trainers. And sometimes participants share their experiences and sensations with the other group members. So that's also really nice. So it becomes this group experience also for people that might be a bit lonely or sometimes are quite shy and they always go to nature alone. But then through Shinrin Yoku, they discover this group setting as very helpful. Here we have the 5 phases in Shinrin Yoku health training. This is the term, again, that Nadine Gaschlin here in Switzerland coined. And they consist of the first phase is a conscious start. So really trying to make a conscious transition from everyday life into the forest or the natural atmosphere. Then phase 2 is slowing down. It's all about getting more slow, more relaxed, away from this hectic, busy lives. Part 3 is opening your senses. So it's really about diving in more deeply to discover maybe tasting, feeling, etc. Phase 4 is the deep dive, a feeling of connectedness to nature. And phase 5 is usually a tea ceremony that we hold and the closing of the whole walk we did together. And usually we walk together out of the forest and finish by just sharing our experience a little bit. Yes, I'm going to take you through these 5 phases so you know even more about them and you can really get an image of these walks. So this conscious start is really, as I said, it's like this transition between this rushed, hectic everyday life and entering the forest. It's kind of like creating a barrier between these two worlds and giving participants like the chance to leave everything behind that they no longer want in their lives and just to switch off their minds for like 2-3 hours time we spend in nature. We usually use different exercises for this transition. One great exercise I want to share is the coat hanger exercise. It's like you imagine all the emotional baggage, everything that is stressful at the moment in a backpack, and you kind of put it on a forest garderobe or like a hanger. And you look at the tree, you leave it there, and then you take a conscious step into the forest and the relaxation can begin. This is a great mental exercise. In phase 2, I have a beautiful quote of Thich Nhat Hanh: smile, breathe, and go slowly. Again, it's all about mindful walking, slow walking. We sometimes use the image of a fox and how it kind of goes very slowly through the forest, trying to get his prey. And it really helps people to kind of have this inner image of this fox going through the forest very slowly, gently. Another image we use is gazing like an owl. So we still get them to practice the slow walking like a fox, but adding the owl to it. And the owl, as you might know, is looking around. It can look in all directions and has this peripheral view because we tend to always look like this at our phones, at our screens. And it's really a great relaxation technique when you open also your gaze while you walk slowly in the forest. Another walk we usually practice is walking with eyes closed. I can really recommend you to try this out at home. Usually you take 10 steps with eyes open in the forest. Make sure it's like a straight path so you don't tip over. And 10 steps with eyes closed. Closing the eyes has the effect that you immediately arrive in this present moment and you have no way of staying in your thinking mind because you have to focus so much on balancing. Phase 3, open your senses. So here we have some guiding questions like how does the forest smell? How do certain plants taste? How does a fern plant feel? How do the birds or some leaves falling sound? And how do I feel in nature? Here again, we use the tools of soft fascination, amazement. So we marvel at something, for example. We touch things, so we touch different plants. We see what is the structure of this plant. Another great thing is that we taste things. So we actually taste pine needles. That's a really great exercise with the participants, like especially red fir and white fir. And we get them to compare the two tastes. We taste nettle, wild garlic, sometimes clover and berries. Whatever is there, really, it depends on the season. We also offer them land art or nature art, which is a great way also to get more connected to nature and seeing what's there and putting it into a place like a mandala or creating something beautiful with the objects of the forest. Embodiment is also a great way of feeling more connected to nature. It's always part of the Shinrin Yoku courses that we offer. Um, it's really, the goal is really to bring your body into this, because we feel that if it stays on this more, again, you are still a bit more in your head, it needs to go into the body to feel more relaxed. So also in traditional Shinrin Yoku from Japan, there's always a sequence of Qigong. We also in our courses offer Qigong, but there's also other techniques like body to brain. I'm gonna show you more later on what that is about. And of course, yoga is great, a great way to embody, and also breathing exercises. Here I have an image of one of our walks, and this participant is also smelling the moss. It's a great way to just, yeah, get into the flow. She's also closing her eyes, so that helps even more to relax. And here you see two participants just feeling a tree and the outside of the tree, to see like its structure. How does this, yeah, it's again, it's like a sense that we don't tap into very often in our everyday life. Phase 4 is this very deep connection with nature. We try to really create new impressions for participants. So seeing things that we already know in the forest, but seeing it through like new eyes, or again with this image of the child, and practicing this beginner's mind. So as if for the first time you are seeing trees or you are entering a forest, and how does this make you feel? So basically looking at something usual or known with a completely new perspective. Here we have some great tools available. One is this picture frame you see in the image. It's a great way to kind of close in on an object or a plant, and to only focus on a little piece of this plant. Sometimes we also play with mirrors. So walking through the forest, holding a mirror and looking into it, you can see all around. It's really beautiful. Then we invite participants to have their solo time. So we kind of send them into the forest on their own for a few minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, can be 12 minutes. And they really go to a tree that they feel most comfortable with, and just take time to sit in the forest and to be with their minds, their bodies, and trying to relax. I also have a beautiful quote here. Breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. Then we reach phase 5, the tea ceremony and the end. So usually we do a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. We practice mindful tea drinking, which is basically first we hold the little glass in our hands and we feel the warmth. And then we look at the tea and we see if there's any herbs in it or anything floating around. What does it look like? In another level, we say, how does it smell? And then in the final step, we actually taste it. So that's a really great mindfulness exercise to do with participants. We also bring snacks, we bring poems that we read out, and then we return with the whole group to the starting point. The effects of forest bathing. The forest does not care what your hair looks like. The mountains don't move for any job title. The rivers keep running regardless of your social media following, your salary, or your popularity. The flowers keep on blooming whether or not you make mistakes. Nature just is and welcomes you just as you are. I think this quote is really great because it shows that when we go in nature or forest environment, we do not get judged. So it really doesn't matter who we are. So whenever we walk in nature, we feel so free because we can just be. We don't have to perform. Studies and research, there's a lot of studies and research about Shinrin Yoku. So as I said, it started in the 1980s in Japan with Dr. King Lee, and since then numerous studies have been contributed. They basically demonstrate how it can help with stress, depression, mood, cardiac disorders, and it boosts the whole immune system. Shinrin Yoku can also regulate blood pressure, improve sleep quality, and create peace of mind or a greater clarity. Research also suggests that forest bathing is inhaling nature's own immune system. It's called phantosides. Basically, that's what trees and plants emit, and they ward off insects. These nature immersions use all of your senses to restore your present awareness, and thus a presence, calm, and rejuvenation that participants can say sometimes last for days. There is now extensive research that forest bathing can have all of these listed effects. I'm not going to read them out to you because it's quite dense. Maybe you can have a quick look, and I will take a sip of my tea. There's more. So you can see the list is quite big. Also, this is taken from where I did my training as a Shinrin Yoku health trainer. So with Nadine Gashlin, she's actually working with the University of Zurich on recent studies. So it's just showing one of the research that's been done. But if you Google it, there's a lot of research from different places, countries about Shinrin Yoku. The good news is that even a small amount of time in nature can have already a big impact on our health. A 2-hour forest bath will help you to unplug from technology and slow down. It will bring you into the present moment to de-stress and relax. When you connect to nature through all 5 of your senses, you begin to draw on the vast array of benefits the natural world provides. This is also from Dr. King Lee's book. And it's really motivating, I think, to see that, okay, I don't need to spend hours and hours in the forest. Of course, that's great, but sometimes not very realistic. Then there's microdosing of nature and mindfulness. So you can already have very little actions of self-care in and with nature, such as Qigong or body to brain, breath exercises, meditation. You can take breaks with slowing down, walking slowly from work to home. You can get some forest souvenirs. That means like you can collect things that you like in nature and put them in your home or at your desk, or actually take home some herbs that you put into a tea, or create a little bath moment for yourself at home. Also collecting flowers is great, to bring something from nature home with you and that you can look at, and also that gives you a sense of joy. I actually just took this with me today. That's on the way here, so that's nice. Now we're going to move to our second part of the webinar. We are going to do practical exercises that you can take home with you, and I hope they help you in your daily life to relax. And here I brought a quote by Eckhart Tolle. In today's rush, we all think too much, seek too much, want too much, and forget about the joy of just being. So the first is a breathing exercise. Here you can basically sit upright and place your hands over your belly and practice drawing breath in from deep down. Notice your hands rising and falling with each belly breath. You can also close the eyes, makes it easier. And you can also count if that helps. So in for 3 and out for 6. I'll let you practice at home. So we can move to the next exercise. This exercise is called hand exercise. Basically, you can hold out your hand in front of you. This is a great way to do at the office in front of your desk. And with one finger from the other hand, you can move up your finger and down your finger, up and down. And when you move up, you can breathe in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and then continue like this. It's really a quick way to just get a break and do conscious breathing. Then the mindful tea break. This is a really great way also to have like this mini mindfulness moment per day. I guess most of us might drink tea or coffee, and when the kettle is boiling, it's also a great way to tune in to your mind and body and see how you feel. And when your tea is ready, you can hold the mug in your hands, just as in the photograph, and you can kind of feel the warmth, and again, do the little tea ceremony with smelling, tasting, observing. So that's a great way to take a break. Then we have tapping. Tapping is a really great way. It can also reduce stress and anxiety and improve your overall well-being. Basically, you start on your forehead and you tap on your head, then you move down. Also down here is a great way. We have a lot of nerves around here, all around the jaws, underneath your nose. And you can move down to the chest. And tapping your chest is especially good for boosting the immune system. So that's really great also when you feel like you might get a cold. Just do this. There's a lot of tapping exercises also on YouTube that you can check out. Then the eye relaxation. Here you can rub your hands together to create a little heat. And then place your warm hands in front of your eyes. Feel the warmth and then go down your face. This is really great also if you have been working in front of the computer for a long time and want your eyes to relax and just get a little break. Then massage your face. Here you really can stroke your whole face, your cheeks, your eyebrows, your forehead. You can pull your earlobes. You also have a lot of nerves in the ears. Massage your whole earlobe. And also the neck. It's actually great. Another great way to do it in front of the computer. Then gratitude journal. This is a really cool tip. A friend of mine also gave to me that you can keep a gratitude journal next to your computer. So you can note down all the things you're grateful for. Feeling grateful also has this sense of getting more calm, relaxed, and you can also write things on stickers or post-its and put them on your laptop or your computer. Then stretching and yawning is really great. It's something you can do also in front of the computer. You can try it right now with me. You can do yoga on your chair. And yawning is really particularly good if you are a bit stressed, and a great way to just get a break. I hope you're not yawning because it's boring, but because you are feeling relaxed. Then nature in your home, indoor plants. I never was a big fan of plants indoors because I guess I love nature so much. I wanted to go outside. But since I did my Shinrin Yoku training, I have been a bit obsessed with plants in my rooms and also in the office. I brought a lot of plants. It's a really great way to have these mini breaks as well and to look at the plant in your office and maybe touching the leaves or looking at the leaves closely. And also the color green in general has a calming effect on us. Then aromatherapy. Essential oils are great. They can have a calming effect or refreshing effect. You can use them in diffusers or balms. I sometimes use roll-ons. They're really practical. Or sprays. I actually brought 2 of them today. I got these sprays for the office. And it's a really great way also to just spray a little bit and dense like these new aromas. So if you can't go to the forest, that's also a cool tool to use. Then, of course, just taking a break. It's really hard to slow down and be mindful if you don't really have the time. So you don't need a lot of time, but I think it's really important to take very conscious breaks during your work days. And during the week, I really try to go to nature alone, because what happened earlier was that I would go to the forest with a friend and we would just blah, 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 like exchange all the time, which is great too socially. But if you want a green break for yourself, it's really nice to be alone. And 1 hour in the forest each week is more valuable than 2 weeks of holidays. That's really cool to know, I think. And it's also nice to take like these regular breaks in the forest and not waiting until you get a holiday, because maybe you also know it, but a lot of people tend to get sick when they're on a holiday, because finally the whole system slows down. And what happens is that we get a flu, or like the immune system is so overworked that we get very, very tired. And so it's better to have a lot of breaks during our days and during our weeks and not wait till the holidays. Then another exercise I want to share with you is kind of being the camera when you walk in the forest. It's also called mindful photography. Of course, we tell participants to switch off the phones during our courses, but it's really great to still pretend like you're the camera and walking, looking at everything. What do I see? Taking a close look at plants, flowers, insects, discovering what's there. I often kneel in the forest and trying to see everything. And then I do take photos, not during my courses, but when I go alone to the forest. And it's nice to memorize these moments, I believe, and to also look at these photos again after you've been to nature, and to also have these green breaks with the photos. So I put together some photographs that I took in the last 2 weeks. I went to the forest quite regularly, also to prepare for this webinar. And yeah, I just let you enjoy and sit back, relax while I show you these photos. They're actually from a forest in Bern, very close to my house. I'm very lucky to live in a green space like this. This is not from spring. This is the only exception. It's from winter time. As you can see, the little ice cubes surrounding the leaf. Okay, and one more technique I would like to say that you can use as exercises for things to take home is this body to brain technique. It was founded by Dr. Claudia Kraus-Müller, and Dr. Claudia Kraus-Müller is a specialist in neurology and psychotherapy. In her work, she shows that simple exercises have an immediate effect in our brain and affect our mood and emotions. She actually started with working with kids. So that's why the booklets on the right, you see, have all these funny little animals that she uses to illustrate like these exercises. And then as she got more popular, she also wrote some novels for adults. And also these exercise books, they can really help also adults, of course. They can be used by adults. She also says that certain body postures change our feeling. So standing upright for more confidence, snipping fingers for concentration. Also a lot of breathing techniques for relaxation she offers. Yeah, you can look her up. She's more in the German-speaking fields, but I think her work has been translated in many languages. I'm going to show you some exercises from body to brain now. One is the straw breathing technique. It's really cool. It's like you imagine yourself holding a straw and you basically suck in the air. And through this straw, you breathe in, breathe out. It's really funny. It's really hilarious. I always have to laugh, but it signals the brain that everything is okay and you can relax now and trust. Nice side effect, it also loosens up your jaw. So that's also where we hold a lot of tension generally. One thing she says is great ways to shake it out. So shaking your body, it releases a lot of stress and helps to be present again in your own body. So you can do this in a park, you can do this in the office, and just anywhere you are, basically. Then, of course, smiling and laughing. It opens your own heart and gives brain signal of feeling great. You also get new energy by smiling, and it really changes the mood. So it sounds a bit artificial, but it really works even if you don't have a great face in your life, to go in front of the mirror each morning and just have a smile at yourself. Also, it's also body to brain. Doing this in the mirror helps. It really changes your brain and how you think about your mood. Then standing wide-legged is great. It's really like showing you're confident, you're open, you're strong. Stomping with your feet is a great way also to de-stress quickly. So these exercises are really amazing at how quickly they can be done, and the effect is quite big. And other exercises can be humming. So humming to yourself, like it really is like creating this sound room in your body, and it's almost like the bees, or like also the purring of a cat has a very calming effect on us, but we can also create this within ourselves. One other great way is to swing your arms while you walk. That's very easy to do, but it has the effect of just also releasing tension, feeling light, kind of joyful. Or hopping, sometimes also in Shinrin Yoku walks, when we feel that the group is getting maybe a bit heavy, or like in their heads again, we do a little hopping exercise, and it really helps to lift their moods and to feel almost like a little child, running up and down the street. Rolling your eyes. This is also a great way to for concentration, for getting out of this like very deep focus in your computers. Moving the face muscles in general, grimacing. That's great to just relax a little bit. Hand on your heart. We all know that this has a very calming effect. Really like, I'm okay, I can do this. Yeah, I just feel it right now. It's just very beautiful to do. And of course, hugging yourself is a very easy tool as well. So we are already reaching the conclusion. I tried to kind of sum up what I want to tell you today. But Shinrin Yoku is a practice of mindfulness in and with nature. The great thing is that it's very easy and effective. It's available for anyone. So that's really what I love about Shinrin Yoku as well, is that it can be done by anyone, no matter if they are fit physically or if they are maybe big people, small people, anyone who just wants to walk slowly through the forest can come along. It is a great tool to slow down and get quiet, to recharge and get new energy. And basically, Shinrin Yoku helps people to reconnect with nature and to have a feeling of connectedness. And I think saying that is also, the great thing is that we see with our courses that when people feel that they got a lot from nature through these mindfulness exercises, through spending time in the forest, through being amazed, they are very active and ready to go home and, fight climate justice and fight basically like get engaged, get active for nature and the environment. And I think that is a really great tool also for us in the activist field. So thank you very much for your time. It was my great pleasure. It was a shame that we couldn't go to the forest together. Maybe we get to do this another time. And yes, I'm super excited to hear all of your questions now, read by Claudia. So,
thank you so much, Loretta. Thank you for
welcome.
for all the theory, the research behind it. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, my internet is not the greatest, but yeah. I think both the theory and also the very practical exercises were great. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And we do have some questions already. So I will start maybe with the very specific one about the 5 phases of the Shinrin Yoku health training. They ask, how long does each phase last?
So the whole course is usually 2.5 hours. And then we kind of, me and Sandra, when we do the courses together, for each walk, we try to define how long each phase should last. So there's no clear guidelines, I would say. It really depends on our mood, the group's mood. Also, some exercises might take longer because it's a bigger group. So we try to have a very clear structure, but then we often go with the flow when we are in the forest, I have to say, also time-wise. But I would say generally, like the tea ceremony, for example, that's a given. That's always about like 15 to 20 minutes, I would say. And the first part usually takes like half an hour, roughly, like to slow down, to make this transition from the everyday life to the forest space. And the rest is quite stretchable. Like if we want to focus on more like tasting things, or if we want to focus on more touching plants and having more sensations with the feeling, then we give that more room. Yes, it also depends on the seasons, because here in Switzerland we have 4 very distinct seasons. Sometimes it is super cold. Once in January I did a training when it was like 5 degrees outside, or 4 degrees, and then we didn't let participants sit for a very long time, for example, in this solo time, because then it's not relaxing when you're freezing. So so we have to make adaptations in that regard.
Okay, great. And then maybe you already answered this, but I will ask anyways. If you can share more exercises to help connect with the nature in the first phase.
You mean if there are more exercises? Or
Yeah, because maybe this question was asked in the very beginning and then you shared. But
with the garderobe. Yeah.
Yeah, for example, yes.
There are more exercises. I don't know a lot of them from the top of my head. In our script, we only have like 3 or 4, but I'm sure you would find more in the internet. Another one I can share that's a really great one is it's not like tapping, but it's like stroking your body. And we always say, like, now you traveled here, you have come as a group. It's time to kind of take away our dust from the travels and, the dirt and the grind. And it's also quite good because you already bring the body then. They are already working with their bodies, they are present, and they get a first kind of self-care ritual before entering the forest. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe also one thing for the transition phase, it can be done mentally, but what we use usually also is just a tree or a log that we put down on the floor physically to mark this barrier. And then we do a very conscious step over it. So me and Sandra, we usually do it so they can watch us, observe us, how it's done. They don't feel so silly. And then they can just follow us. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And maybe connect this actually is how to make sure that people don't get distracted and they follow the process during the walk. Because I guess it's very similar to mindfulness, that it's very easy for our minds to wander. Yeah.
That's yeah. Well, I think we can't control how people come to the walks and what they feel and what they don't feel. So I think distraction, I would say most people are very much in the zone as I see it, because they are very nervous at the beginning because it's a completely new experience. But as we move along, they get so relaxed that I feel they are completely in the zone. They forget the time. They never look at their phones. And because it's a group thing, I think it makes it easy to follow the exercises together, and you can observe the others, how they do it. And yeah, I think they really enjoy this fact that we give them this time frame of the 2.5 hours where there are no tasks, no daily lives. They can have the monkey mind. I think that's the hardest to get rid of. But I think because, yeah, with the group setting, it takes care of a lot, because then they also exchange about the exercises, and they are very much in this presence that we want with Shinrin Yoku, like this here and now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that goes into my next question, because I was wondering what are the benefits of the group, and you already partly answered. Because when I thought about forest bathing before, I always thought I didn't know much, and I thought it was a individual experience, like really you want to get out in nature by yourself. So I found it super interesting that it's actually a group experience. So maybe there are other benefits other than this guidance and this being present and sharing.
Yeah, I think I would say, yeah, what I already said, but also I think some people do, like a lot of people are lonely, and then coming to this group can really mean like this sense of community that maybe if they are not in the volunteering like we are constantly surrounded by people, but a lot of people are out there alone, and then they come to this, yeah, forest bathing, and they suddenly discover like this, oh, it's really great to be in a small group again, and to have this connection. And I think this shared experience really makes the benefits somehow more powerful for a lot of participants, or that's what the feedback they give us is always like, it was so nice it felt like a little family in the end, even if it was just 2.5 hours. Also because for everyone it was such a leap maybe into the unknown. They don't know what to expect, and they are, as I said, quite nervous about the experience sometimes. And yeah, it's just, yeah, I think one other aspect that I found when I did the training and I moved in the groups was, for example, the solo time. I really felt that, okay, if I'm sitting alone at this tree, who is watching me? Because sometimes if maybe a family with kids is walking past and they see you sitting alone in the forest, you do feel a bit strange. And when you are this little group, everyone's doing the same thing. You do it individually, but you see and you feel that there's other people crazy as you, just hanging at the trees. And I think that gives this sense of maybe legitimacy, or like, I'm not the only one. And we are like this group, we are strong, and we don't care necessarily what these people think of us now. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Also with the Qigong, I think Qigong is also one that most people feel a bit like uneasy because they maybe for the first time, if they don't do yoga or other things, that they just are in public, moving in a strange way. And there, I think particularly it's important to have this group. And when people see us, they just think, okay, it's like Qigong group, practicing. And it's more, I think if I'm doing it alone, sometimes I do feel a bit more self-conscious.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yes.
And then there is a very practical question about, because I guess not all forests are the same. And someone is asking, what about dangerous insects or animals in the forest? There are any precautions that people take before going, or how to manage that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, in Switzerland, we're very lucky to not have any dangerous animals. That would be something that I would have to think about if that was the case. But in general, as Shinrin Yoku health guides, we do feel very responsible for the safety of our people and our group. So we all have to do a first aid course also as part of our training. So if there is a small accident or someone is getting injured, we could also give immediate help and support. And also it really depends of the location, because in Switzerland we are also really urbanized. So there's a hospital, a doctor very close by at every forest that I'm going to. So even if there was a bad accident, I would not be alone and I would have everything covered. I have the numbers with me that I need to call. We also, one thing that is a big thing and big discussion is the weather circumstances, because if there is, for example, a thunderstorm or something that can be if it's a heavy wind that might potentially have crashing down barks and trees, then I would not take my group to the forest. So that's also part of our training, to look out for these things and to plan your course accordingly. And then usually the day before we check again the radars, and in the worst case, we have to cancel. I mean, it's not a risk we can take. But insects. I mean, we have a lot of ticks in Switzerland. That's the biggest risk, I would say, in our field. We usually offer them to have tick spray at the beginning of the course, and we also give information about them. We give little tips like putting, long sleeves, wearing, maybe putting your pants in your socks so they don't crawl up your knees, and things like that. Maybe checking for ticks at that evening that they came to the course. But other than that, I would say, there's not that much risk in Switzerland. But definitely, if you would do Shinrin Yoku somewhere else, these would be the kind of things you need to investigate further into.
Yeah, and I would imagine also you need to know a bit the herbs and the plants, if some plant is not edible or dangerous or maybe endangered, so they shouldn't pick it up.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that's a very good point as well. I mean, we tell them at the beginning, we give some instructions. Before this phase 1, there's just a general introduction about Shinrin Yoku and some practical tips. And one is definitely not to taste any plants that they don't know, and also only with our guidance. So if we say, let's taste this nettle, then we show them the nettle and they taste the one we pick, and they don't just go off in our courses and yeah, eat plants by themselves, because we always stay together as a group. Because I also tell them, like, I don't want this responsibility. I also tell my participants not to taste any mushrooms, because mushrooms can be very poisonous. And actually, our Nadine Gashlin herself, she shared a story of a participant that only touched a mushroom and then never washed her hands that night. And she ate food that night and she got like this huge allergy reaction. So it's really like I tell them not to touch mushrooms during my course, because it's a whole different area as well, like field of expertise, these mushrooms. So I think, yeah, if you're interested, go to a mushroom course. But yeah, it's nice to just, again, be amazed by the mushrooms. That's part of Shinrin Yoku, to be amazed and to look at them, maybe take a photo, but not, yeah, doing anything else with it.
Yeah, just use some of the senses and not all of them with mushrooms. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We have another question that you touched upon briefly, but if you can expand, if you ever did it with people with disabilities, and if yes, how it was, and if you have any special recommendations.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We haven't done any courses for people with disabilities yet. I mean, physical disabilities. And I have been thinking a lot about offering these and how I would do it, because we do stay mostly on the big paths in the forest. We don't go into the separate wood ways, again, because we want to stay together as a group and we want to be as much as like inclusive as possible. So also people that are not so fit, they don't really like to run off. So I'm thinking maybe even people in wheelchairs could participate potentially. But then I would have to redesign the whole route in the forest that we usually take, because there are some parts that are not wheelchair accessible at the moment. So it's just a matter of planning the course accordingly, I would say, and getting more info about the forms of disabilities present and what do they need to feel comfortable, especially. Well, it's a really good question, and I think it's especially in Switzerland, there's not a lot of courses offered for people with disabilities at this stage. So it would be great to expand in this direction.
Thank you. Another question came in. Did it happen to you that a participant had an emotional breakdown, like started crying or something like that? And if yes, how did you manage the situation?
Not in my courses so far. Mostly we've had very happy people, I would say, that felt more energized and all these great benefits I talked about before. I did, however, feel that sometimes the solo time is really when people go very much inward, and they can really, a lot of emotions come up usually during this time. I've seen some faces that I did feel, I didn't see any tears, but I did feel that, okay, something really big has happened with this person now. But I think the great way of the flow with these phases is that then the tea ceremony is right behind the solo time. So it's a nice way, I think, to come together to the group, from the solo to the group, and then feeling also this shared, whatever was happening, to feel that, okay, maybe something happened with someone else, and then to break this silence also with tea drinking and just having a tea together. I think that is very comforting, having this warm tea in your hand and then eating some snacks. Yeah. But no, I haven't had to deal with this yet. But I know, yeah, a lot of trainers that have described similar situations.
Yeah, I can imagine that it can become emotional for some people, but it's good that they were mostly happy.
Yeah, and
Or
of
yeah,
course
they were happy.
and I think we try to signal also from the training perspective that they should always feel comfortable. So if anyone feels that it's too much or they get too much negative reactions somehow from this experience, that they can also leave. I mean, we try to stay together as a group, and so far it hasn't happened, but I guess we would also approach this person individually and just talk to them what they need at this moment.
I also have a question more for, well, it can be for anyone, but especially for volunteers or activists. You said that this practice is very connected to self-care, and self-care is very important to recharge, also in order to be better volunteers, to be better activists, and keep going with the work we have been doing. So it's not self-indulgence, as you said, it's not selfish, but it's to also be able to continue being in the world for others as well. So how do you connect it, or if you do, to more activist or political practices, also maybe connected to climate change or other topics, if you find or to make any connection?
Well, I think in our Shinrin Yoku training course, we don't really connect these topics that much. But as I said, what I found really interesting is that I feel that people that come to our courses are generally outside of my usual bubble, I would say, or are maybe not very political people, let's say, and are more coming from this mindfulness, yoga, or self-care bubble already. But I do feel that having this quality time in nature, I think I do observe some change in them. That, yeah, as I said, now like nature is giving me so much, and it's just there. I can go to the forest and whenever I need it, and just lie down and do my exercises and get this new energy. And oh, it's so valuable. I think it's just like I have to protect this. So I can really see that maybe people that are not necessarily very political people that come to the courses, yeah, get these new ideas. Oh, what could I do? I could support a campaign, or I can vote for the Green Party, or I can, just support some environmental organizations. And I find this really beautiful. But I do think it's also my challenge, my personal challenge, to combine these two worlds a little bit, because I do think at the moment they're sometimes separate. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I do think the activist bubble needs a lot of Shinrin Yoku.
definitely.
Because sometimes we just fight and fight and fight for climate justice, but we barely have the time to go to the forest. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I see there are also some questions in the comments that I didn't see before. So we can go back to a practical question. Do you recommend that it is done in silence, like the group experience, for a large period of the session, or not?
Yes, I think silence is a very big also tool we can use to, just slow down and get quiet and then get relaxed. So we do encourage participants in some of the exercises to do it in quiet, and we actually say it in the instructions. We've had courses where we forgot to say in the beginning to be quietly, and then they walked off in the forest and they started sharing, about the weather and about the weekends, and we felt that it was just so buzzing, which was great. Also, it has another quality, but yeah, it didn't really help with the slowing down. So now we usually say, like, just walk quietly to the starting point, and then we begin. And then most of our exercises, they are naturally quiet, because we do exercise like walking slowly, and they are so focused and so concentrated that they don't really share or talk. So yeah.
After the first instruction, it comes naturally, from the group dynamic.
And I do feel, and that's also a really fascinating thing, is that the group, just as a big thing, just completely calms down. So in these 2.5 hours, as it's quite long, it really, like, this is amazing that first they just come and very chatty and then in the end they just go and they are just like then. So that's yeah, so it's so nice to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we reached the end. I just want to share one comment. It's not a question, but I think it's an interesting comment. They are saying we have the same forest mining in Lithuania too. And there are also traditions or heritage for all the people who have their own tree and they go to tell all the secrets or maybe just talk with a tree. And yeah, she's sharing because she finds it very interesting what they are sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's in different traditions. Yeah. It came from Japan, but it's shared, yeah, with humans in general.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's really beautiful. Yeah, I think I know some people as well that they have their own tree in the forest, especially among the Shinrin Yoku trainers, because they do go to the same forests now and then also to see the same tree, you know, grow and evolve and change in the seasons can be really nice. Also to pick a tree as an exercise and just to revisit it and to kind of move through the seasons with this tree and yeah to just can be like also a symbol, powerful symbol of like this is where I, you know, recharge. I go to this tree or I go to this plant that I really like and yeah, make it a more tradition of regular visits.
Yeah, sounds amazing to have a friend in the forest.
Yes. And actually there is a Japanese term, it's I forgot the name, but it's called tree friend. So there is another Japanese word like the ones I showed in the beginning that has from this signage, it means tree friend, which is really beautiful.
Well, thank you so much again, Loretta.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for inviting me and for this great chance to share a little bit about Shinrin Yoku.
Great. And I will pass the word back to Ed for the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta, and thank you to everyone who has joined today. That was a very relaxing webinar. I found you have a very relaxing voice as well to set the mood. And yeah, it was very interesting, and I hope we'll be able to use all of this in our daily life. Just one word for the participant, you will receive a follow-up email from us with a recording of the webinar and the presentation and anything else that need to be shared. And that was the last webinar of our series. You can all find them on YouTube, and there will be some knowledge pills as well from Loretta to sum up all of this. And yeah, that was great for all of you that stayed until the last webinar. If you're just discovering them and you want to have a look at the last ones, go ahead. And yeah, we're very happy to have all our speakers and very happy to have you, Loretta, closing this series.
Thank you so much. And yeah, lots of nice forest experiences to everyone, or nature. Take care.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.